Greetings, dear ladies. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. The channeling is different. The subject of the sisterhood and all that is around it is different for my partner. He steps aside and stays aside. The first time he hears this is when he checks the recording. This is not typical. And for all of these years, he steps aside and he listens. But this one's blocked. They're all blocked for the sisterhood. We've said this before, and if you've listened to the messages, we'll say it again. Don't be fooled by the timbre of my partner's voice. For at the moment we look at pure feminine energy. At this time, with you, I am genderless with you. It's important for the purity of the message, as simple as it may be. The purity of the compassion of the feminine life giver is important as we speak to you. Important enough that I put him aside, as uncomfortable as it is for him. This is the sisterhood. The premise has always been the same, that in Lemuria there was something called the sisterhood. It was the divine guidance of the women who took care of the men. With the men's agreement, the women were those who were the spiritual guiders of all that was. And if you ask any man in the society at that time why this was, they would look at you curiously, as if you ask them, why is it that the women give birth? And the answer would be, from the best they had, because they have the equipment to be the spiritual guiders. They had the intuition. It's normal. It's natural. And the men would ask you, isn't it this way everywhere? So there were assumptions and logic that demanded that the women take care of that which was spiritual. You had the equipment for it, the intuition for it. I was there. We've talked so many times about the ancient ways, what you did. We've discussed before, what are the odds that you were there, that you were a woman? It has nothing to do with odds. There are no mistakes, dear ones. This time around, in the new energy, you are again feminine. And it needed to be so, because those of you in Lemuria, in those ancient times, carry this in your Akash. The equipment is still there to speak to spirit in ways that have wisdom. You can feel it. We can feel it. Can't you really feel it? When you really look inside, deep inside, wouldn't you say, I know a great deal about love and compassion. I'm very well equipped to speak to spirit for others, to hold the light for others. Women have always been the caregivers, always, always. Can you see caregiving being spiritual as well, holding things together? Helping the others of the tribe, of the culture, in figuring things out because you knew. And here you are, with one foot today in an ancient land called Lemuria, recognizing that which was sisterhood and spiritual and proper and beautiful, and at the same time, you are the modern woman of the year. There are certain things that never change on this planet. One of them is who you are. Who you are to your family, the caregiver. You bear the children. All of earth passes through you. All of it. Whether it's other women or the warriors of the land, they all pass through you. There's something to be said for the fact that the first thing the child sees is a feminine energy. The first voice often heard in the child's ear up close and the kisses they receive, male or female, is feminine. Doesn't it make sense that this would carry over into those things which are spiritual, the guidance that they would need for life? It's what you did. It's still what you do. I want to talk about something I've never said. There is power in collective Akash. Now let me explain this. If it is true that most of you, if not all of you, carry things in the Akash that are ancient and go all the way back to these things which we call the sisterhood, you are aware of everything I'm saying at some level. You were there, you participated. You knew of the caregiving. You knew of your role. You knew how you helped others with your spiritual guidance. You knew that others listened to you for your guidance. You knew you were respected. That's in your Akash. There's a saying that says, where two or more are gathered together, there's more power. The prayer perhaps is answered faster and quicker because of the assemblage of the numbers of like-minded people. But what about a collective Akash? What if all of you had a certain Akashic memory? You weren't together necessarily, for Lemuria was over many years, but you all participated in that same action, in that same energy. All of you. Now you bring it forward today. This is the concentration of the sisterhood, the ability to believe it, to pull it forward, to see it, to recognize it. And the first thing, and the first challenge, is to see the value in it. It's important that you see that, because this is important to a planet that needs it now from you. Women have asked, they have said, when is the earth going to change? And this would perhaps return to a place where all humanity would see what you're saying, would be comfortable with what you're saying, a return to a truly compassionate feminine guidance for spiritual earth. I'm going to tell you this, longer than you want. However, that should not shut this down at all. Because you have a collective Akash. There is so much power in the fact that you've all been there and done that, and there it sits in your Akash, and you can pull it forward right now. And listen to me. You can begin the guidance right from here. As the modern women that you are. Without anybody having to approve, without anybody noticing. They don't have to. Because the power you have in the spiritual guidance for your culture and for this planet remains yours. In other words, you can affect things right now because you carry it in your Akash and you know how. And whether or not the rest of the planet sees you, admires you, or even admits you're here is irrelevant. Because this is the kind of power you have. It just cuts through things. It makes a difference. You're the caregivers. And the energy of the planet will recognize this. Gaia will follow along and cooperate with what you're doing. The energy of this day will cooperate and follow along with what you're doing. Perhaps it's time for the modern woman to think in ancient ways and start helping. Help the culture, help the men. Even though they may be unaware of it, it really permeates the energy with the powerhouses that you are. Spiritual caregivers, everyone. That is potent. It really is. It should ring true. Really ring true. So as the modern woman that you are, and the ancient ways that you carry, you're well equipped today to continue what you did. That's where we'll leave it for now. And so it is.